to Six Silver Seals. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the upcoming transit of Mercury through Cancer, which begins in very shortly, actually. It does start today, May 28th, 2020. Before I dive into the specifics, I do want to remind you that if you want more astrology content, readings from me, other personalized stuff, the best place to go is Six Silver Seals on Patreon. Once you become a patron, you get access to the monthly Night Sky newsletter, which is a forecast of the upcoming month's astrology. Higher tiers get personalized readings, their own personalized monthly horoscope, lots of extra fun stuff, plus stuff that I only post there. Like I said, you can also find me on Facebook at Six Silver Seals, and then I'm sprinkled throughout the webs on a couple different places, but those will be in the down bar at the bottom of this video. So, Mercury in Cancer starts today, and because there will be a retrograde, yes, Mercury retrograde is on its way back through. Sorry, but true. It will actually be here all the way up until early August. So Mercury is going to spend quite a lot of time in the sign of Cancer. Now, in tarot, the associations of these cards, Mercury is obviously the Magician, which we've discussed before, and Cancer is the Chariot. So when you have the energies of the Magician and the Chariot together, which we will for, a good 3 full months, really more like 2. But anyway, I digress. We are dealing with capable intellectual energy in the form of the Magician. If you look at the artwork on the card, the Magician shows you the wand, the sword, the cup, and the pentacle. Yes, the pentacle. I always get the words for pentacle and pentagram mixed up. I know the difference, but it's neither here nor there, really. But it's capable energy and it wants to go somewhere. That's the whole point of the Chariot, is movement. The thing about this is that it needs somewhere to go. The Magician the Magician, as the driver of the Chariot, is willing to journey, willing to travel, wants to go someplace, has the ability to get there. It just doesn't know where there is. So the goal of working with Mercury in Cancer, with the Magician in the Chariot, is to find a goal and then pursue it rather than just blindly run around. Chariot energy is best manifested when you take the reins of the horses, which normally would pull in 2 opposite directions, and steer them towards a common end, which is to move forwards. So as I've said, Mercury in Cancer starts today, May 28, 2020, and runs all the way until August 4th, when it will finally enter Leo. You'll notice that this is much, much longer than the transit of Mercury through Gemini, which only lasted for about 3 weeks. Mercury will spend more time retrograde than it does in one of its 2 home signs. Anyhow, so the retrograde that's coming, because it is coming, and part of my doing this is to warn you about it, will be from June 18th through July 12th, which means that Mercury will be in its shadow starting on June 11th up until the retrograde, and then once the retrograde ends, it will be in its shadow again until about July 19th. So we're dealing with a little bit over a month of all the usual things that happen when Mercury goes retrograde, dealing with miscommunications, dealing with messages going the wrong places, emails won't send, phone calls won't go through, text messages won't go through, specifically in ways that, though, because it's in Cancer, it will specifically be in ways that stir up emotion. It's going to be places that it matters on the egoic level. More than the merely personal. It's the stuff that matters to the I inside of you. The letter I, not the physical body part. This will obviously be at its worst during the retrograde, especially right around the end of June. Although, being that it's going to be here for so long, there are a number of aspects that Mercury will be forming as it passes through Cancer. So here's kind of a rough and ready list. It is a little long, so bear with me. First of all, we get kind of a quiet first week. Nothing really until the 5th of June. But on the 5th of June, Mercury will both square Chiron in Aries and sextile Uranus in Taurus. This is important because that is going to be a really important day, or a couple of days, you're going to take the day before and the day after, to start sort of working past the wound. The square to Chiron shows you where it hurts. The sextile to Uranus is sort of like the way around it. And by the way around it, I sort of mean like it's less like a cut and more like the way you have to deal with a broken bone. You got to put it in a sling or find some way to set it, and it means you can't use it the way you normally would. So you have to figure out new ways to do things, like learning to write with your left hand because your right arm is broken if you're right-handed. That's kind of what we're dealing with when you have this chirotic Uranian energy playing along with Mercury. Mercury will go retrograde on the 18th, and then on the 30th, it will be conjunct the Sun, which will also have moved to Cancer by then, at which point it will also form its second sextile to Uranus during this time. But it's doing so in a retrograde fashion, bringing back some of that, again, that workaround energy. Luckily, though, being saved by the illumination of the Sun, which, just like in tarot, positively lights up everything it touches. On the 1st of July, very next day, it forms its second square to Chiron. And again, we're going backwards. Now we're going back to the... This is sort of like... Let's stick with the broken bone analogy. Sometimes a bone heals crooked, and the only way to fix that is to break it and reset it. The 30th of June and the 1st of July, I warned you earlier it was going to be the worst part. This is the re-break and reset. We figure out what's been working and what hasn't been. We continue to focus on the approaches that do and leave aside the ones that don't. Then we get a whole week. July 8th, just a few days before the retrograde ends, Mercury forms its square to Mars. And this is going to be right as the retrograde is ending. It's almost over. We're all getting impatient, right? One of the other things Mercury rules is speed. And that impatience is going to lead to aggression if we don't temper it. So here is your warning. Temper your aggression in the early part of July. Don't make this a hot summer because you get hot-headed, says the Aries. Then, Mercury goes direct on July 12th, comes out of its shadow on July 19th, and on the 21st and 22nd of July, we get the third version of the square to Chiron and the sextile to Uranus. And now we get to take the cast off. We've learned all that the workarounds are going to teach us this time around, and we can, having grown in a different direction, now we get to be more whole. Again, like I've told you before, astrology is participatory. You get out of it what you put into it, but ultimately the ideal is to make you holistic, right? It's to make you grow in all the directions that are good for you and make you more well-rounded. So I'm going to approach all of these things as though that's the goal. So again, July 22nd, cast comes off. You get your arm back, you get your leg back, whatever. On the 27th, though, the second square to Mars. Now, since this one's not retrograde, it gives us a chance to work past some of the issues that are resurfacing. Because again, whenever you deal with Mercury retrograde or any retrograde planet, but particularly Mercury because it's the fastest, making a lot of the same aspects over and over, especially this close together, it's a lot of deal with it and then go back and revise your having dealt with it. And so that's sort of what July 27th will be for when it forms the second square to Mars. We have to kind of revise our approach to the rage. July 30th is a twofer, just like the beginning was. Mercury will form an opposition to Jupiter and a trine to Neptune. You really, really, really want to lean on the Jovian energy for this one because It's going to be a lot easier for Mercury and Neptune to get together, and just your daydreams run away with your brain, and you miss opportunities to grow. So you really want to lean into the Jovian energy. You really want to lean into looking for your potential and ways to make it more manifest, because the easy aspect does take away from the hard one here. The hard one is the better of the two aspects, but you have to lean into it. It's going to be hard work because it's an opposition, but you can do it. There are two more oppositions before Mercury leaves Cancer, and they're also to planets in Capricorn like Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, who we've been dealing with all year. Thank you very much for what you've done to 2020. We love it. But you've got Pluto on the 1st of August and Saturn on the 3rd of August, both opposing the moving Mercury. Some interesting transformative energy there. Embracing responsibility in such a way as to overcome it, overcoming obstacles. Becoming, not so much becoming a different person than you are, as realizing you're a different person than you thought you were. Not necessarily that that's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But, like, you know, your thoughts work differently than you figured at first. And you communicate in a way that you learn to communicate in a way that works better. Again, this is all about growth and evolution, because we're just trying to find somewhere to go. But then, the next day after the Saturn opposition, comes August 4th. Mercury moves into Leo. The Magician stops worrying about the Chariot and starts worrying about strength. But we'll talk about that come August. But there is your preview of Mercury in Cancer. As you can see, it's going to be lots of fun. If you want a more personalized guide on dealing with it, you know how to hit me up. Keep your eyes open for your Mercury retrograde survival guide, which is coming before the middle of June gets here. And as always, be kind to yourselves and one another, and I will see you next time.